Rick, of course, is and we were talking about this the first half hour, our senior advisors for national security and foreign policy. So it's not just someone who comes on the broadcast it's like that, or a contributor on TV that you see, but it's part of our team. And it's got a piece up that we haven't gotten to yet on the broadcast about the Biden administration abandoning America's energy independence, but also how this is affecting our allies. So, Rick, I appreciate you joining us today. Just right off the bat, I think that your piece says it starts with the idea of, quote, we will oppose. And it puts our allies like Poland and Vietnam, India, Japan, barring them from receiving U.S. energy support. Explain that to people.
Well, what's really shocking about this latest move from the Biden administration is that they're opposing certain forms of energy independence. And it's unbelievable when you think about telling other countries that they can't use coal, they can't use oil, and they can't use certain natural gas types. Now, what's really remarkable about this is that many countries have to have a mix of energy. They can't just have wind and solar. They need to have coal because they've got plants that are using coal for 20 years. They've got a source of coal, so it's cheap. Look, we all get that we want to improve the environment and be sensitive to the environment, but cutting energy and energy projects from other countries simply because it's a coal project or it's an oil project is really remarkable, because they're going to find themselves in the situation like California, where they have rolling blackouts, rolling energy crises, simply because the Biden administration is demanding that these other countries do more wind and solar projects. Otherwise, we're not going to help them fund these projects.
Yeah, Rick, you also said in your piece that the new policy not only impacts our foreign partners, as we just talked about, but also penalizes U.S. energy companies.
Look, one of the breakouts of the last 5, 6, 7 years in the United States in terms of a transformation of the energy industry is that we have become, for the first time ever, an energy exporter with liquid natural gas. Now, think about that. We've been on Middle East oil for so long here in the United States that during the Trump administration, when we moved to explore natural gas, which we have plenty of access to here in the United States, that transformed our economy. It transformed the industry. It allowed us to not purchase as much Middle East oil. It let us grow this clean energy source, which is natural gas. And it's been an explosion for American jobs. We've had so many companies grow and be able to begin to sell overseas. Certainly, we know Sempra Energy, for instance, has a it's an American company out of California. They have a big operation in Mexico now, creating jobs both in the U.S. and in Mexico. This is an amazing opportunity for American companies, but yet this latest move from the Biden administration is that we won't be able to fund projects overseas with our partners that have certain forms of liquid natural gas that are not clean enough. And that's what the Biden administration is labeling things. If they're not clean enough, if they don't meet a standard, then we're not even going to fund them. But, what's really shocking, Jay, is that just take a country like Germany. Germany talks a big game about clean energy and wanting to have, a climate policy that is always geared towards clean energy, but they have coal plants. They use coal energy. And so does the United States. So we have to be able to be smart about not cutting off these countries cold turkey, so to speak, just simply because the energy source that they have available to them is not clean enough.
And they're going to have to find it elsewhere. And I would assume, Rick, they're going to be looking towards the Chinas and the Russias of the world to find it. And these are not countries that want to necessarily be reliant or doing business at that level with Russia and China. But if you force them into doing it, they've got to keep the lights on. They got to keep the plants on.
What you just said, Jordan, is totally key. Because it's not like when we tell them that we're not going to fund coal plants or oil plants. Yeah, they're not going to stop using coal and oil. they have to use it in their energy mix. And so it's a false choice that the Biden administration is giving them, because it's really not going to cause them to do anything but look to Russia and China for coal and oil. And our products are much cleaner. I mean, there is a truth to cleaner coal. That is the truth. If you use technology, you can create cleaner coal. And so I think that what we have to do is take these countries where they are. What is their energy mix? How are they getting their energy sources? Yes, we want to diversify them, but we need to understand that they are going to go for the cheapest energy source for their people, and that only makes sense.
You know, we were energy independent just an administration ago, and it's amazing to me, Rick, that it changed so rapidly, and that impacts our national security as well.
100%, and that's one of the reasons I love being with the ACLJ, is that we have this holistic look when it comes to energy or human rights and foreign policy and domestic policy. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of being at ACLJ, is that we get to do all sorts of different policies that interact and intermingle. I can't imagine not being a part of ACLJ, not being able to write pieces like what I just did up at ACLJ.org, to be able to put some of these Biden administration policies into perspective. What does it mean for our domestic audience? What does it mean for our foreign policy audience? How do these affect human rights? And the freedom that I get to be able to write and to speak out at ACLJ is just like no other place. And I'm really appreciative that we can bring together all these issues under one roof.
And we've been trying to do this for people, too, at a time where it's easy to almost ignore the rest of the world because of COVID and because of the situation with travel, and people aren't moving around, and they're kind of just dealing with, crisis after crisis. But it's to make sure they understand, Rick, is that really all of that is happening is impacting you at home. And I think that by bringing you on, having you part of the team, and putting these kind of new perspectives out in the articles at ACLJ.org, and then bringing you on to kind of explain it to everybody, is that always it ties back to right at home.
Yeah, well, that is so true, because just look at this instance in particular of the Biden administration saying that we're not going to help fund foreign countries that don't have clean energy sources. And you might think, oh, well, that's too bad for Bulgaria or Serbia or Kosovo or some other country. But it actually impacts us, because if you work for a company or you live in a state where energy jobs and energy production are a part of your economy, this directly impacts you and your economy.
As we're getting ready to close out this segment, Rick, I want to reiterate something you just said, and that is the unique role that we get to play at the American Center for Law and Justice in all of these policies.
Look, I'm really humbled to be able to be a part of the team. And the only way that we get to be a part of this team, which is a big, when I write a piece, for instance, Jay, this, there's an editor that helps edit it to make sure that it's correct. There are a team of people that put it up. They're production people. This is not a cheap endeavor. But if you're hearing our voice, if you're reading the pieces at ACLJ, hopefully people understand that this is something that's expensive, that we need to be able to continue funding, because it's invaluable to me to be able to have a place like ACLJ that allows us to bring perspectives from foreign policy and domestic policy together.
I said this earlier, everybody, and Rick, I really appreciate you saying that. And, you got the former director of national intelligence, who was also ambassador to Germany and had 10 years of experience at the United Nations. And we have the former secretary of state, who also happened to be the director of the CIA. All of that happened this year. Rick, we appreciate your input, your insight, and your being a part of the team.